The theme of our summer study session has been God the Father, and this evening we're going to have a very special talk with 3 of our readers on what God the Father has meant to their life, in their lives. And our first speaker tonight from Phoenix, Arizona is Eve McMahon. Please give a warm welcome for Eve.
My name is Eve, and I'm a recovering codependent, as well as a 39-and-a-half-year reader of the Urantia book.
Would you kindly speak closer to the mic? Thank you.
Yes. Is that okay now?
Yes.
Okay. I've asked the Father to help me with this because I haven't spoken in front of people in quite a few years. I used to be in Toastmasters, but that's been about 15 years ago. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, other than I'm going to try to talk to you like I do when I'm in my CODA meetings. One of the things I have found for me is that I have sabotaged my successes for fear of failure. I have low self-esteem, and I'm working on that. I'm in a spiritual program called Codependence Anonymous, where we identify with the God of our understanding. As you all know, I have a God that is a massive Father to us all, bigger than I think any other religion on this planet could even embrace or understand until they read the Urantia book. I found in my life that having been abandoned by my natural father, my biological father, and a mother who had her problems and never seemed to find a way to get to the care she needed to find out what was her problem, I'm learning that I have to become an authentic person. And to do that, I have to do it through my God, our God. He's been a blessing in my life, and I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me. I'd like to read something that has meant something to me because it was in another 12-step program, Adult Children of Alcoholics, that I found my inner voice. And that's July 11th, which is today. The reading is, "Today I will listen to my inner voice and be guided in the right direction. My inner voice has all my answers loud and strong. Today I will listen to that wise part of my being that so often attempts to guide me. Sometimes this voice is firm, sometimes it is soft, sometimes it just chuckles about my interactions and my decisions. I trust that my inner words, guided by my spiritual nature, will continually lead me on the right path. Even during times when I'm not inclined to listen, my inner voice continues to send helpful messages. Today I will listen to my inner voice, and I will be led in the right direction. When I was living in an alcoholic family, it was often chaotic, scary, and confusing. My inner voice usually prodded me along, yet I so often chose opposite actions from what my wise part knew, that infinite that lives within us. Listening to myself can guide me to serenity. Deep down inside, I know that peace exists, and I bless my inner voice today." These are some of the things I read. I have 3 meditation books. One is on CODA, one is on Adult Children of Alcoholics, and the other is The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty. And I'm getting dry mouth. Can I have my water? Thank you. This may not be politically correct. I grew up in a very, very dysfunctional family, and as Virginia Satir said, from what I learned when my former husband was in graduate school, the pendulum of our lives swings to the right and to the left. The small majority are right in the middle where it's balanced. Some of us over here are really, really chaotic and dysfunctional, and some of us over here are really in a good spot, better than even in the middle. I was over here. When I found the Urantia book, or actually it found me, in November 1975, by a young friend of mine who was legally blind and had been lent the Urantia book and was trying to read it with his high-powered eyeglasses and a magnifying glass. In those days, there was no extra things that he could use to make the printed word larger. My ex and I had a split, and he was off in an apartment, and my daughter and I were living in our house. And I got this doorbell that rang. And I was used to having Randy come around at different times because we like to talk about, is there a God? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What can we rely on in our lives? And it made sense to him to give me the Urantia book to read because he knew I had so many questions. We used to spend Saturdays with another friend asking all these questions and discussing what avenues we had come down and what things we had read and what we wanted to find out about God in our life. So he rings the doorbell, I go and answer it, and he walks in with this big blue book in his hand, and the kid has no pectoral muscle on one side of his body, but he was one of these kids that could do anything he wanted to do. He just challenged life. And that's what I found with a lot of people from dysfunctional families. We challenge, we want to reach out, we want to make improvements in our life. So when he brings this book in, he says, I don't have time to stay, but I've been lent this book for 30 days and I don't want it to go to bad, use just sitting on the table because I'm not going to be able to read it. You know how bad my eyes are, can't see very well. And he says, I know you have a lot of questions and maybe you'll get some answers here. And I took the book and almost dropped it on the floor. I said, no, it's too big, got too many big words. I'll never be able to understand it. As I was looking through it, you better take it back. He says, I'm not taking it, I'll be back in 30 days. But he didn't come back in 30 days. It took him about 60 days when his friend asked for his book back. By that time, this was November '75, he brought it to me, just before Thanksgiving. And by January of '76, my ex and I had decided to get our lives back together, try to make a marriage work. It didn't. As 4 years went by, that was the end of that marriage. But in that time, he came back and started doing some clinical work at a receiving home in Glendale, Arizona. He calls me up one day, he says, you'll never guess. I said, guess what? There's 2 people here at this place where I'm working, and one of them reads the Urantia book. And he said, tonight I get dibs on it. He says, because I had been reading it and wouldn't let him read it. And he said, I get dibs on it. I want to read it tonight. I'm going to start reading it. This guy just can't stop talking about it. It was Dick Johnson, a lot of you know, and he used to be on the council. He and his wife both were reading it. Well, within a few days, there was a potluck for the Faith House that was put together between Dick and his wife and a few other volunteers in another 12-step program for helping with women who were battered wives and helping their children have a place of refuge to go to. Here I go again. Sorry. So I go to the potluck, and here comes Dick and Peggy, my husband at the time, introduces us. And they start talking to me, telling me, maybe you ought to try a 12-step program. So I did. I took them at their word. I thought, it can't help. I've got the Urantia book. Now I've got 12-step recovery coming into my life. So as the process went along, I went through 5 different 12-step programs and kind of walked into the meeting rooms for a few others just to check out all the dysfunction that I needed to find out that had passed in my life that I needed to work on. And eventually I found CODA in 1989, October of 1989. So my path has been a path of discovery. I do a lot of sponsoring today with other women who are coming into the program or coming back into the program that have need of clearing up things in their personal lives. I have a pamphlet of what is CODA. So if anybody is interested in wanting to know what CODA is, I made some extra copies of it. But for me, CODA has helped me understand who I am and where I'm going, along with the Urantia book. Because I can go into a meeting and share my experience, strength, and hope with other recovering people. We work 12 steps, and the 12 steps are borrowed and revised with permission from the first 12 step, which is Alcoholics Anonymous. And the biggest thing in CODA is we admitted we were powerless over other people and that our lives had become unmanageable. And I think being in the home that I was in, there was the first 10 years of my life, to me, weren't that bad because I was with a very loving grandmother who was my rock. But then my mother married somebody who was a raging alcoholic. And I don't remember seeing the man sober with 3 years that I lived with her. And one day, when I was just about 13 years of age, I told my mother that I was going to run away. I was going to be one of those runaway kids. And she begged me not to do it. That's the only time I remember my mother talking to me. The rest of the time, she would tell me, if I don't have anything nice to say about anybody, I'm not going to say anything. So she was like in depression all the time. And being a child, I had an older brother who was 2 years older, but being a child of a mother who more or less abandoned us because she wasn't there for us, it was really difficult to tell her that. But she did come alive that one time and begged me not to run, that she would do something about it. And that's the only one time in my life with that woman that I remember she actually came alive and did something about it. She got on the phone with my grandmother, and the two of them talked, and they said, please don't run away. Stay and finish the school year, and then grandmother will come and get you. And then I said back, she better be here the day after school's out, or I will go. Well, she was there the day after school was out. And I lived with her the rest of my school years and 2 years of college. I'd never seen a more loving person in my life as that woman was to me. She was my mother, my father. She was my sister, and she gave me a chance. She was my rock. I thank you for listening to me. Blessings to all of you.
Thank you, Eve. Thanks for sharing. Our next speaker is somebody who's a new face for many of us. He is here, he's the one that's been up here working the microphone and the cameras and our new AV person. His name is Meguel Anoba, and he's living in Boulder, Colorado right now. He's also got his daughter here. So please give a warm welcome for Meguel Anoba.
Good evening.
Hi.
So I was asked to speak about what the Father means to me, and I was like, well, that would be easy. I just stand up here and cry for 10 minutes straight. I was born in '75. I didn't have a father when I was born. It was just me and my mom and her mom. And they did the best thing they could have done. They read the Bible to me when I was an infant. And as a toddler, I would quote scripture, and I didn't like the words in black. I only liked those words in red. And that's all I ever wanted to hear was that guy, Jesus, and what he had to say. So based on all of his teachings, you know, if we all just simply lived by his teachings, this would literally be heaven on earth. And of course, everybody was raised the way I was raised. Everybody was raised with the teachings of Jesus. Everybody knows, you know, just love each other and forgive and everything's gonna be wonderful. So my first day in kindergarten, it wasn't like that. It was the weeping and gnashing of teeth. It was that's my sandwich, and it was literally hell on earth. And I was so disillusioned at this planet that I thought we were living on. So it was just like, what doesn't everybody realize? If they just did these things, everybody would be happy. And so that's kind of been my quest my whole life, is to try to restate the teachings of Jesus to mankind. So when I was in my 20s, I gave my life to God. I started reading the Bible in a way I'd never read it, and that's when I saw a lot of inconsistencies in the love of our Father. So I would ask him, why did you tell people to go kill people in your name? Why did you tell Abraham to kill his son? In the New Testament, why did you diss your family in all 4 Gospels? And those are really big. It was a really big deal for me. And as a sort of answer to all of my praying and seeking, I kind of saw something in my mind. I saw a big blue book, and it had gold lettering, and I couldn't make out what it said, but there was a big blue book somewhere that was going to explain all these questions that I had. And I searched for this book for 7 years, and 10 years ago, almost to the day actually, I found it online just looking up Michael, Jesus, and Gabriel. And it blew my mind. I knew it wasn't written by humans. And so going back to not having a father, my mom married a gentleman when I was about 3, and he adopted me. I thought he was my dad. I always felt, though, he didn't like me, and it is what it is. They divorced when I was 20. I do still have his last name, which is odd, but it is what it is. So I have the name Meguel, looking the way I looked. We were living in Texas, and it wasn't a pretty situation. So, hey, I speak English, changed my name to Michael, and it was a good thing. It evolved to Mike as I was in high school. It evolved to Big Mike as I became an entertainer and things like that. And I met a man who told me he was a prophet, and he could tell every time I told him my name was Michael that I was lying to him. And he said that he had spiritual ears, and he could tell by the vibrations of sounds if they were false or truthful. So what's your name? It's Michael. I'm a prophet, blah, blah, blah. So he finally, after minutes of trying to get me to tell him my real name, he said, what's the name your mama gave you at birth? And I finally said Meguel. And he was like, well, you don't realize it, but when you tell somebody you're Michael, you're lying to them. But then everything else you say, whether it's the truth or not, it's still a lie because you've presented yourself as somebody that you're not. So when you do go back to your real name, you'll know your purpose, your mission, your destiny in life. So when I was 30, actually on July the 18th, which is coming up soon, I had an amazing experience. I woke up one morning and I was Meguel. And that was it. It was, I'm a new person. I'm seeing everything through new eyes. I gave my life back to God, and I made this prayer to Jesus. And at the end of that prayer, when I said, I do all of this in your name, Jesus, it hit me, wait a minute, is that the name his mother gave him at birth? Because what if it isn't? What if we live on a planet where we've all been duped by this false name that Revelation says is going to happen? Anyways, I don't want to get into that. So, what's his real name? You know, what is the name that his mother gave him at birth? And of course, it's Yeshua, which is Aramaic for Yahashua, which is Hebrew, which is Joshua. And when I called this dude by his real name, it was a person I had never met before. I thought that I had known this guy for 30 years, and it turns out this is the first time I had ever met him. So my reverence for him, my reverence for his name, you know, everything changed. And it was 2 weeks to the day that I found the Urantia book. So I don't think that's a coincidence. When I found it and saw that it was a big blue book with gold lettering, I pretty much knew this was it. And I've read it 17 times in the last 10 years. So we lived in the Carolinas. There weren't a lot of people there that were Urantians, so it's been a pretty tough decade just finding people who are like-minded. And I want to go and just say this to everybody. I don't know how many of you have actually given your life the way that Jesus wanted his apostles and disciples to give their lives. You know, he said, if you truly want to be my disciple, sell everything you have, give everything you have away, and then come follow me, and everything's going to be awesome. So with a 9-year-old child in the Bible Belt, we became homeless on purpose. We sold everything we had, we gave everything we had away, and we were literally penniless and homeless. And through that, we were guided to Boulder, Colorado. We can't explain how it happened. It's all a mystery, but it's happened. One of the first people we met was Merritt Horn, which I was like, what? Merritt Horn? I've been sleeping with this guy for 10 years. Reading to me in my sleep. So of course I couldn't wait to tell Merritt, you know. Yeah, and he was like, oh, I get that all the time. We met Andre. Where are you at? So you guys are my fathers. You, I don't want to cry, but you know this, all of you. Jesus says we're the children of God, which means we are baby gods. And there's no other way to say that. All of you are baby gods. All of you are amazing. I all but worship you. And I just thank you guys so much for everything you've done over the last 60 years. This revelation and what you guys have done with it is just mind-blowing. So, you know, I'm new here. I don't know what the future holds, but, you know, it's my promise to you to do whatever I can to take what you guys have done and take it really to the next level. You know, this is the 7th decade, and I don't think any of us should take that lightly. This is going to be an incredible decade. I don't want to spill too many beans. I'm trying to get a Urantia Center going in Boulder. We found some property recently. We're going to try to have a fundraiser. So if you guys want to give us all your millions of dollars right this way, you know, sell everything you have, give everything you have away, this is the time. But the Father means absolutely everything to me. It's amazing to have a father and a mother as one being. But it's nothing without you guys. And but that's all I can say. I love you guys so much. Thank you.
Many years ago, when I was a young teacher, not that young, our school district had a large population of black kids, and the fact of the matter was that the proportion of those children in the honors classes was small, and the proportion of them in remedial classes was big, and in special ed was big. That was the fact. And they were a group of parents who basically felt that it was that us white teachers were not teaching their children, and that's why they were failing. And we were accused of institutional racism. And I don't know how it happened exactly, but for a period of time, it seemed like there were federal agents. I mean, there were people around the school all the time popping into our classes to see what we were doing. It was a really bad time, and morale was very low. My principal came to me one day and said that a new family had moved into town, and the mother said that she would not allow her child in a classroom until she met with the teacher. And so a meeting was set up. Forgive me if you've heard this story, but this is very deep to me. Anyway, he brought her into the classroom with the social worker, introduced us, and then he walked out and left me with her. And she said to me, I read the papers, I've spoken to my neighbors, I know what's going on here. I know that you're not going to really give my child a fair shake. He has trouble in school, and he needs a really good teacher, and I am going to be watching you in my face. And the social worker moved back from the desk, this little table we were sitting at, and I was left there shaking. And my heart was palpitating, and I closed my eyes and I said, Father, help me. And when I opened my eyes, I said to her, Nicholas is one lucky boy to have a mom like you who cares so much for him. I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I had a mom who cared so much. She was completely, first of all, they weren't my words. I knew immediately that was not me speaking. And I was kind of in shock. Because I was scared, you know. I was ready to say, listen, you know, I love teaching, I love kids, you know, I'm going to do a great job with your son. But I asked my Father in heaven for help. You know, now after reading the Urantia book for a longer time, I know you're not supposed to ask the Father for help. You're supposed to thank him and praise him and worship him. But whoever got the prayer, it was answered, and I was just out of there, and Spirit spoke through me. There was no question about it. So I knew, you know, in reflecting, of course she was disarmed and we became great buddies, and the kid did well, and it was really a great experience. But personally, for me, it was the reality of knowing that Spirit was real, and that if you could get yourself out of the way and just do God's will, you know, he'd be there and help you through it. And I think what I realized later was that the Father saw the big picture, and he knew that this was a mom who cared about her kids. She wasn't just an angry mother who was, you know, screaming at me. She was a mother who really wanted what was good for her child. And that's the way God sees us. You know, he knows what's in our hearts, and he knows what we really want. And I just want to be like God. I want to see the way he sees, and I want to be the way he is. And that's what I pray for. And that's my story about God.